Hey, what's up, crypto friends? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be discussing, has Bitcoin found a bottom? Okay, I know this is something that a lot of YouTubers have been discussing about, but really I have not seen any proper valid points discussing whether we have or we haven't. So I'm just going to be analyzing this from a non-biased standpoint, utilizing as much factual information as possible through technical analysis. So let's talk about it first. So before talking about whether we found a bottom or not, let's first describe and talk about what is a bottom. Okay, for some reason in this market, people think that the moment we find a bottom, we're just going to, we're just going to go right back up to 20,000, 30,000. No, that's not the case. Okay, when I refer to a bottom, I refer to its lowest peak in the market. Okay, so let's say, for example, this is its bottom. In order for us to establish that bottom, we need to see several points of contact. All right, we need to retest it several times for it to confirm that it is a bottom. Now, I'm not just saying this out of my own will. If you take a look back in time, in 2015, in fact, I could probably go down further. You can see that we established a bottom right here. But in order for us to confirm its support structure, we had to retest it several times. In fact, we retested it 3 separate times for us to confirm that it is a true bottom. Okay, and that was of course at an average price of around $200. It deviated a little bit, but nonetheless it established that bottom structure. Okay, so there's that. Like I said, I would go back further, but the last information that we had right here was back in 2011 or so, and it doesn't really give us enough for us to work there. So that's as far as I can go back utilizing this chart right here specifically. But so now the question becomes, have we found a bottom? And in my personal opinion, yes, we have. And the way I determine this is utilizing the logarithmic scale. And not just any logarithmic scale. This one was actually produced by a really great guy. His name's Giovanni Santoschi. You'll probably end up hearing his name a lot more often because he's making some pretty big moves within the cryptocurrency. Well, I would argue in the finance space, okay? And so he was able to provide this chart for me, actually. And what we have here is what's known as the 10-year period of the pretty much Bitcoin's existence, okay? It utilizes logarithmic scale, and what we can determine here is its overall trend. This red line right here, you can see this little red line on both charts, is its previous trends from pretty much from its inception. And what we can determine utilizing this logarithmic scale is how far it deviates from that trend. And if you notice, any single time it crosses below the lowest peak, at the lowest point, it only deviates 50% from that point. All right, the moment it deviates 50% of that point, it's determined its bottom. And it's worked like that since its inception for the past 10 years. Okay, so if you take a look right now, we've done just that exactly. We've actually deviated 50% from that point. You guys can see right there. Of course, this doesn't account for small price action. So we might be able to go just a tiny bit lower, $100 lower, $100 up. It doesn't account for that, but it does account for its overall price from a longer price point, okay? And so we're also able to look at that down here from its difference from the trend log. You can see right here, how in the past right here, this was back in 2015, this was back in 2011, and in 2009, how far we've deviated. And again, it's never deviated more than 50%. You can see anytime we've reached this bottom trend line right here, it's established a bottom. But like I mentioned before, we were there for a few months. All right, we're going to be here for a few months, and so we need to establish that by having several points of contact. And currently, that's where we're standing right here. And so again, if you guys want this chart, let me know. I could probably link in the description below for you guys to check it out. But this is actually pretty much the best way to determine anytime Bitcoin's overextended or oversold, in my opinion, utilizing this proper chart right here. It's been very accurate to the teeth for the past 10 years. Okay, so if anything changes from this point on, then at this point it would become invalidated. Okay, and in order for us to change that, we would have to see a huge shift in market perspective or in maybe psychology or something of some sorts. But based on this trend right here, it hasn't failed us yet, quite yet. Okay. So again, that's how I was able to determine whether we found a bottom utilizing this structure right here. But like I said before, for us to establish that bottom, we need to see several retests towards that support structure, right? So we'd have to retest that 3100 range, or at least maybe that 3300 range, around that range or so, you know, several times. And okay, and if history tells us, we'll probably be here trading along this trend line for at least pretty much towards the end of the year. All right, so the end of 2019, which, you know, for anybody that trades cryptocurrencies, this is a good opportunity, right? Because this is accumulation zone. This could be a proper way to trade, you know, and maybe short Bitcoin, long Bitcoin, short Bitcoin on a shorter time frame. Okay, that's what I've been doing. It's been pretty successful at it, just because I like sideways consolidation like that patterns. They're pretty predictable. And then at that point, once we've established several points of contact and we've seen, you know, that confirmation support structure, then at that point we'd probably be as comfortable to say that we start that uptrend probably by 2020. Okay. Of course, I'm not going to get ahead of myself there. I just want to further provide that this is a bottom or not, utilizing those two indicators, of course. And lastly, I think probably an important thing to note is also the volume. Okay, it's very simple, but one thing to determine whether we found the bottom or not is by looking at volume. Currently, we're seeing a small decrease in volume, but according to past trends, anytime we've established several points of contact, that's when we start to see increase in volume, because confidence starts to build up in the markets. Okay, and again, the way we can better determine that, going back in 2015. All right, so back in 2015, we established that bottom, and of course we saw a huge decrease in volume kick in, and it wasn't until we established it several times that finally we saw that volume kick in, and it kicked in really hard, actually. Okay, so that's going to be another proper indicator by looking at that increase in volume on that support structure, right? You can notice the difference that the next time we had touched this right here, we had way more volume than we did back here or even back here as well. So that's another indicator that's going to be pretty big in determining whether this is going to be the bottom or not. Okay, so I know I talked a lot about this I'm sorry I've been ranting a lot, but let me know in the thoughts, you know, what do you guys think? Okay, I just pointed out several key indicators, and pretty much the reason feel really confident in this is because I've seen a lot of people talking about saying that we're going to end up making lower lows towards that $2,500, $1,800 range. And look, I'm not going to dismiss that at all, again, but oftentimes, you know, according to, you know, trading facts, the average person trades with their emotions. Okay, and in this case, I think a lot of people that are still in the markets are emotionally invested, and they want things to go lower because perhaps they sold around this range, you know, and they want to get into a much lower price action, you know, so they can better compensate for their losses. So when it does return, you know, they're at a gain, right? And so I think we're going to see a huge shift in a lot of people's mentality, especially when they realize that this could be the bottom. All right, but again, like I said, there's a lot of miscommunication. I think a lot of people think that bottoms refer to just mooning right away. That's not the case. We have to see several retests towards that support structure for us to better confirm it. But anyways, again, I was ranting on. Let me know what you guys think in the description below. Do you guys think that this is a bottom after pointing out several of those key indicators? Or do you guys think we're going to go lower? Personally, though, I do think we found a bottom. I think this is going to be that support structure, just based on that logarithmic scale, right? Based on previous history, I can almost confirm that this is it's bottom. Okay. So, anyways, with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one.